Hi, everyone. My name is Rahul Yates, and I'm the founder of HumSub GlobalTEEN. And today, I'm so excited to interview Jolie from Generation Mixed Podcast to learn more about her and her podcast and just her experience being mixed. So thank you so much for being here, and we can get into our first question. So
Absolutely.
could you introduce yourself and how you identify racially or ethnically and describe what you do?
So my name is Jolie. I consider myself multiracial or mixed. I used to consider myself Black, but we'll get into that a little bit later along the lines of questioning how I came to that journey. Right now, I do a 9 to 5 in addition to my podcast, Generation Mix. Generation Mix is my passion and I love it. And I just recorded episode 35 yesterday. I work at a community college in the San Francisco Bay Area. I work in admissions and records. So that kind of aligns with my whole spirit of being a servant to people, of helping people, of helping people acknowledge their dreams, gaining knowledge, all that. So they kind of align with each other and what I'm trying to do in educating the world and empowering and supporting people on their journeys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's my big thing. And I think one of my biggest goals for my podcast is, when I first did my intro, it's like to interview as many people, to bring as many stories, whether it's historical, personal, and to weave it into this beautiful tapestry, because all of our different backgrounds are a tapestry in itself, and we do have connections through the threads of that tapestry. But if you look at the tapestry as a whole, we also are unique individuals, but we also share a common ground. And that's what I'm really trying to bring forward to the world.
Yes, exactly. We all have so many, like as mixed people, we have so many like commonalities, as you said, so many shared experiences. But then, within that, there is a lot of diversity because mixed does not, mean one race or ethnicity mixed with the other. It can mean literally anything mixed with anything.
Anything.
So
Yes.
yes, exactly. Um,
Yes.
so could you talk more about your life growing up mixed and what was that like? And do you have any specific experiences that illustrate any aspect of that?
Oh, absolutely. I was born in 1971 in New York. So you think in New York City, like, oh yeah, it's a diverse city. There's all these different backgrounds. But let me tell you, I was the only mixed kid in my grammar school. Now, granted, I went to a parochial school, which was smaller, but all my classmates were from around the world, but they were all monoracial. So I already knew, okay, well, I'm not quite like everyone else, especially when my dad would pick me up from school when I was small. My classmates would be like, is that your dad? Because he was a white man. And I'm like, yeah, that's my dad. That's who my daddy is. And they just couldn't believe that.
Mhm.
And that's one small example I was confronted with when I was a child. And then the good thing was when I got to high school, an all girls high school, which was a much larger group, I actually met multiracial people like myself for the first time. And I was so happy. Like, I knew one girl whose mom was Japanese, her dad was Black. I knew another girl whose mom was Chinese and her dad was Black. I knew one girl whose mom was Ecuadorian and her dad was Chinese. So I was like, okay, I'm not alone here. We got all these different combinations. But growing up in the 80s, we weren't that woke, so to speak. We didn't have any sort of resources. We didn't know what really to do. We just kind of just kept ourselves as is. We didn't discuss race. You guys are more woke now to where you actually have the knowledge and the resources to speak about stuff like this. So we just kind of suffered in silence. We're just like, okay, we're different. It's okay. And a few examples I can give you school-wise, actually. I'll tell you one example back in high school where I was in my junior English class and I was doing really good. But you know how certain instructors, this guy was a white guy, he's like, he looked at me really hard and he's just like, well, I don't think you're almost on the border of being an AP English, but I'm going to make you go to the regular English class. And back then I didn't know how to defend myself. I was just like, okay, but looking back on it now, I'm like, wait a minute, who the hell are you to put me in this box saying I'm
Mhm.
not good enough if I'm that close? Obviously, I can fulfill those requirements. So, but back then I didn't know anything, so I just stayed silent. And then
Mhm.
when I went on to college on a scholarship, my first college, I'll give you another example. Now, this college I went to was very waspy. I'm going to say it like that. And I didn't really felt like I belonged or anything. And I barely went to classes, so I ended up flunking out. But my first semester there, I had an instructor for an English class, and my final paper was so well written. She told me, you know, copy this from somebody, plagiarize? I'm like, no, I just write really well. I've been writing since I was 8. And that was another example where it hit me in the face, like, oh, well, you're of color, so I can't believe, you know, you're this articulate or this well written, you know, those old biases that these people had. And again, late 80s, you know, we still had that old style thinking. So again, I didn't say anything. I just told her that's my work, you know. So I didn't really find my voice with all this until fairly recently. I'm a late bloomer. I'm a very big late bloomer. I mean, I didn't really, you know, come to realization that I have something to say. I have a story, and there's other people like me out there with stories. And I think you and Charmaine Fury and Donna's Butterfly, you guys are my inspiration, you know, because y'all are way ahead of me in this relay race. So I'm still in the process of the journey and learning and speaking up and speaking out that I didn't have the opportunity to have when I had situations like that, where I didn't felt like I really belonged, or something, you know, like a bias was being presented to me because I didn't know, you know. And I think at one point in my life, I also went through this in terms of identity, because growing up, my mother told me the 1 drop rule. She
Oh.
decided, she identity policed me, you know, identity policed me. And I didn't even realize that was a term until recently. She said, you are Black. 1 drop of blood, you're Black, you're nothing else. And so I took that with me throughout childhood, you know, applying for scholarships and everything else. And then when I went to college, I ended up getting into my Black Power phase after reading the Malcolm X book, because then that really opened my eyes to, oh my God, there's racism everywhere, and I need to look at things a little bit deeper. And then I held on to that for a while. But then I thought, right when I graduated college, I'm like, why am I saying that I'm Black only, when that kind of negates my father's, you know, legacy? My father raised me. I was a daddy's girl. So I told myself, like right after college, I'm like, you know what, screw this. I'm not Black. I'm mixed race, multiracial, whatever. And now I just, anytime anybody asks me, I'm multiracial. Every time. If they say, what are you? Who are you? Multiracial. Because that's what I am, actually. I mean, really quick, I did my DNA test, and oh my gosh, Rahul, oh my gosh. So I thought I was just a white girl, Black girl, Native American girl. No, I actually found out that I have Eastern European blood. I have Iberian blood, which is the Spanish conquistadors. I have Central Asian blood. And just the knowledge of that, I was like, okay, I really am every woman, like the song goes. So that's why I just fly the multiracial flag. I just fly it proudly. This is what I am. I'm everything. I'm everything.
I mean, thank you so much for sharing that. I can totally relate to so many parts of that. And I think it's so interesting, as you said, how there were basically no resources, nowhere to go to process your mixed identity. And I feel like, at least in my experience, that was in a lot of ways the same. And that, we are, like, you know, there's a generation gap between us, but it shows that, you know, it's hard to really like get to where we want to be. And I think now there are so many more mixed people, and like there's really been a huge boom, and not only the population, but like just dialogue about the mixed experience, which is not even something that, you know, 10, 15 years ago when I was in elementary school that was happening. And so, I mean, it's kind of sad that it didn't change in a lot of ways, even between the points where we were in the same types of schooling. So that, yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that there's change now, but yeah, I think that's really indicative of the fact that our community is, we have so much value, and it's just so hard for us to really get to where we want and where we need to be, because there are so many factors. Like you talk about your mom identity policing you, and I'm sure that there are so many other mixed people who have that experience of, you know, I was like not really knowing, and a parent just tells you what you are and not really thinking twice about it and living their life, you know, ignoring an entire part of themselves. So that is really, I mean, it's very eye-opening to see just how the mixed experience can really affect us. So thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's a process. The way I look at everything in terms of what we're doing as a mixed race community and in terms of our own personal development and growth, just enjoy
Mhm.
the process. It's a journey. We may fall, we may slip, we may encounter a roadblock. We'll figure our way around that roadblock or through that roadblock to get to the other side. You know, it's all a journey. We're all learning at the same time on different levels. We're all learning. And
Mhm.
that's the exciting part. And there's people that are willing, like you and myself, who want to impart that knowledge. You know, we're learning, learn with us. This is what I'm learning and you're learning and all that. I'm the way I do my podcast with the history stuff, it's like I always preface it with, you know, I didn't even know about this case or know about this person to say, you guys, listen, I never knew this. Let me share this with you to make it
Mhm.
exciting and to know, oh my gosh, we have such a rich history that we're now able to start to uncover that gives us this foundation we can build on, you
Yes.
know, that it's not just, you know, what's really interesting when I'm learning with my research, you know, when they talk about first blacks, you know, the black first, most black first were biracial people, actually. They weren't
Yes.
black. And that falls in
Mhm.
line with the one drop rule and the identity policing. It's like, I get it. Yes, you know, for the first blacks, at least in what I've read, it's like, yes, we do claim that, but don't forget the other side either. So
Mhm.
I bring them up. I had an episode I did recently called Biracial First. You know, it's like it's not the first black person, just like Obama wasn't the first black president. He was
Yeah.
biracial. Let's recognize this stuff now. You know, and it
Yes.
doesn't mean we're undermining any causes. We just want people to see us, look at us as well as a separate group. We're with you guys, but we're also separate in a way because our experiences and upbringing is going to be a little bit different. But see us, acknowledge us, listen to us.
Yes. Yes, I completely agree about the like Barack Obama, the biracial instead of the biracial first, or just acknowledging like the multiracial existence. That is just so key because I get that. I get what you said. We're like not trying to undermine any other community or any achievements in some way, but and it is mixed race, biracial erasure to
Yes.
only say, okay, this biracial person this was actually just black, and that in a lot of ways our society kind of functions on like, you know, if you look it, then you are it, and that's not, you know, that's just not true. And
Yes.
so and by trying to by the mixed community trying to point that out, we're not trying to take away, you know, another monoracial group's like thunder, but we're just trying to, you know, have some of our own that we have, but it's just we're not really recognized for it. So
Exactly.
yes, I completely agree.
Exactly. Yes.
So could you tell us about how you have engaged with the mixed community in the past and in the present?
Ooh, that's a really, really good question. In the past, nothing actually, nothing, because the thing is, I even out here, it's hard to find multiracial people in California. So
Mhm.
what I decided to do, especially when beginning my podcast, I just found the community online. And
Yeah.
now I have a network of people. I'm with you. You're going to get on my podcast, you know, that stuff. And that's where I got my education, you know, my first grade education, so to speak, at the entry into the multiracial community, because I didn't have that before this.
Yeah.
I didn't. I just hung out with whoever, didn't know about Loving Day, didn't know about Multiracial Heritage Week, none of that. I was
Mhm.
too busy hanging out with all my different friends. But now that since this has begun, it's like now I'm more aware and now I'm actively seeking out people like myself. And for now, it's online, you know, and that's just the first step.
Mhm.
That's the way I look at it. But yeah, beforehand, honey, no,
Mhm.
nothing. I was clueless, knew nothing. That's why it's still a journey for me. That's why
Yeah.
I always acknowledge I'm still learning about
Yes.
everything. You know,
Mhm.
I'm still a babe in the woods, and
Mhm.
I'm here to absorb and suck up and soak up, actually, not suck up, soak up all the knowledge and everything, and know that it's going to be a long road. But as the Buddha says, you know, life, what the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And I add my own thing is you just keep walking one step at a
Mhm.
time. That's all you can do. So it's still
Mhm.
relatively new for me, to sum it up, being with the
Mhm.
mixed community. But it is very empowering, and it feels like family because we're all kind of going through the same things, and we have that connection, you know, that foundational connection that we're all just a little bit outside the norms, air quote, otherized, you know, that type of stuff. We have that to kind of connect us together at the very least.
Yes. Yes. I completely agree. And I think that I'm so lucky. We're so lucky that there's such a strong online mixed race community. And as you said, I think it's just hard because, I mean, I'm also in California and we are one of the most diverse states. And I see so many multiracial people, but it still feels like we're still a very small group. And I think one thing that with the mixed community is that, if we kind of know like, okay, X city has like a really big population of like X group, right? But so then if you're interested in like social advocacy with that group, it is feasible to like have a rally, to have a community gathering in that area because you know that people will come. But with the mixed community, it's really tough because we're spread out everywhere. We are often not accounted for. We are also in those like racial and ethnic enclaves, but we are not really counted and seen as such. And then within the mixed community itself, half of us don't even consider ourselves mixed or don't want anything to do with it or don't want to talk about it. And so it's really tough to do something like very in person, but I'm so glad that what we've been able to discover is this like online social media, just connecting. And I mean, I would never have been able to met with or interact with so many of the people that I have without this strong online presence. So yes, that's definitely one of the mixed community strengths.
Absolutely. But to tell you one more thing, Rahul, you know what the average age of multiracial Americans are in this country? Did I tell you?
It's like really young, like late teenager or something.
Right. So keep that in mind, because that means the younger generation, you Gen Zs, y'all will be the one to make it even more like pervasive throughout society. We're old, I'm an oldie, I'm a loving baby. And there weren't a whole lot of us, I think it was like 1% of multiracial kids were counted in 1970. And that was a year before I was born. So think about how small that percentage is, but now it's growing by leaps and bounds. So this is only the beginning that we're doing. This is going to be explosive. It's going to be out there and everything, but you got to make the foundation first. And that's what we're doing by having these conversations, by having the strong social online presence and finding places where people celebrate multiracial heritage week in certain parts of the country. So we're only getting started. And that's the good thing. We just keep going with this because it's only going to get bigger and brighter. That's the way I see it, especially since the interracial population has exploded, 256 or 276% since
276. Yeah,
exactly. So that's 276% more energy that's going to be devoted to this.
Yes.
And that's the way I see it.
Absolutely. And so could you tell us about Generation Mix podcast and what inspired you to start that? What do you do with it? And what are your hopes with it?
Well, what's really funny was about a little over a year ago, I posted something on Facebook about being multiracial, like doing some sort of documentary or something, because there's the book that's called Humans of New York. That was an inspiration. I don't know if you've ever heard of Humans of New York. It's where this young gentleman, you have. So I'll just give a little background for people who may not know. It's a young gentleman who walked around with his, camera, and he would get random people back home and they tell their story and everything and have the photo and all that. And I said, I like that idea because everyone always has a story and stories are always interesting. And then I started watching this YouTube channel called Soft White Underbelly, where this one gentleman, he does YouTube videos of homeless people and he tells them they tell them their stories and their struggles. I said, I like that too. So I had this in mind and I posted something on Facebook about, we should do some sort of multiracial documentary or something along those lines. And then one of my fellow multiracial friends, Tiffany, jumped in and said, girl, you need to do like a podcast or something like that. And the next thing you know, while we were having this conversation, my best friend and his partner were like, Jolie, we just opened up a podcast network. Are you interested? And I was thinking, okay, first of all, never done podcasts. Second of all, never listened to a podcast. I'm like, okay, well, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And then based on that post on Facebook, I said, well, I'm going to focus on being multiracial in America. And my friend who responded to that original post, it was supposed to be a duo of us, but then she dropped out and now it's just me. So I was the one who was figuring out what name to give it. And my marketing / best friend, marketing person and best friend who's part of the network, he gave that name to me. I said, it's a perfect name, Generation Mix, because it encompasses everybody. You're mixed, you're just in this generation, whether you're 99, 9, 109. And then what ended up happening, I don't know what it was. It's like I got really excited and I was like, okay, I can go with this. I'm going to do stories just like I saw with Humans of New York and Soft White Underbelly. And I started off with guests. I said, I want people to have a voice, to tell people their stories, even if it's for that one kid living in Tuscaloosa or wherever in this country, to feel like he or she is not alone. You know what I mean? And that was my general, aim. And then there were times when I didn't have guests. So I said, you know what? My catchphrase says what it means to be multiracial in America, one story at a time, from the studio to the streets. Stories can be more than personal. They could be histories or her stories. And that's when I started diving into the historical stuff as well, because it gives me something to kind of draw upon. Okay, where did certain things come from? The quadroon balls and the octoroon balls and all this other stuff. It's like, oh, this is where colorism may have started, the Blue Vein Society. So it gives you some sort of foundation. Okay, this is what was going on that was in the creation of the mixed race community. And then in the meantime, I'm getting more and more people, hitting me up on social media. I'd like to be on, or they send me stuff in email. So it's almost overwhelming because I'm trying to keep up with everybody because I want to get everyone on.
Yes.
So that's my goal, is just to bring these stories out, bring empowerment. And what I do with my podcast is I do focus on their background, their multiracial experience, but I also want to give a view of the whole person. So I want to know what their aspirations are or their accomplishments, to know that, yes, this is about mixed race, but guess what? We are more than just mixed race. We are human beings striving to do things or have dreams, whatever it is. And I try to include that into my episodes, to know that we're not just going to sit here and talk about mixed race. We will, but it's also just a part of this person who I want you to know about, in addition to their mixed race background, in addition to their mixed race experience. So that's how I do my stuff, and I want to continue doing it. And I'm hoping Hollywood calls. Come on, Hollywood, I want you. You want me. That's my goal. To go Hollywood, because I want to interview everybody. I don't care if you're Obama. I don't care if you Halle Berry. I don't care if you're one of those homeless people on the street. Talk to me and I'll talk to you. That's how I feel.
I love it. I think that's exactly what the mixed community needs. Somebody with your energy, with your enthusiasm, and with your passion for this. And I think that's just to having more opportunities to have conversations about the mixed experience, and then just covering so many different people, as you're saying, regardless of race, background, where they live, etc. And that's just, I think that is exactly what other mixed people need to hear, especially because so much of the mixed community is just struggling to even appreciate being mixed. I mean, I think I know you talked about that, and I know that's been my experience growing up. Like, what am I? Where do I exist? Like, what spaces do I belong in? And not really finding any answers. And that's what drove me to start this platform. And so just, I think on behalf of mine and everybody in the mixed community and the world's heart, thank you for
thank you.
your effort and your just drive and not stopping at all to do something as valuable as the podcast. So thank you so much.
Well, I could say the same thing for you, because you're doing the same exact thing as I am. I think all of us who are in this and are really committed, we're all part of this together, and we all are working together. And I appreciate what you're doing, especially since you're young. Because when I was your age, honey, please, what was I looking at? Teeny Bopper magazines and all that. I was like, ooh, like clueless. And look at what you're doing. You started a foundation and everything. I mean, like I said, you're going to go really, really far. And this is the good thing, that we're together in this space to be able to support each other and to advertise and to tell people this is who we are. We're not going anywhere. We're not shutting up. Listen to us, see us, acknowledge us, like I said before. And we just keep it up, because see, here's one thing that I've seen too, when I started this whole thing, Rahul, is for example, there are a lot of mixed race Instagram accounts.
Yes.
And I noticed a lot of them would dropped off like in 2015, 2016. And then you have some who started during the pandemic. And then when the pandemic stopped, then all of a sudden, everything kind of blah, it went out. And then when I'm looking at historical stuff online, I noticed there was an explosion of stuff. Like if you search online for like multiracial history and everything, there was an explosion between about 2012 to about 2016. And then it went radio silent. And I think right now what we're doing is we're giving it a renaissance. Now we're bringing it back out again. This time we're going to keep it going because we have more numbers, more people relying on us, listening to us, wanting to seek words of wisdom, comfort, strength, whatever. And this is the time we keep it up and keep it going. Don't drop off like those other people. We got this. The census has confirmed it. Yo, we are bigger and badder than ever. Let's keep this going. Keep it up.
Exactly. This is our time to shine.
Yes. Amen. Amen, honey. Absolutely.
So as you see the younger mixed race generation grow, what do you hope to see happen within the community and the world? And what has progress related to the mixed experience looked like, and what does progress continue, and what do you hope it looks like?
Well, first of all, I look at this whole community as a relay race. So there's some of us that have been running longer than others, and there's some of us like myself that are older than others. So the purpose of a relay race is we're all a team. And when it's your time to pass the baton, you pass the baton to the next person. And hopefully that person will know to pass the baton to the next person. That's the first thing. We're a group, we're in a relay. We got to pass this baton between each other. When us Gen Xers get a little too old and our voices are shaky, we're going to need millennials and you Gen Z to speak up for us. That's the first thing. The second thing is once you keep that going, more changes will occur. Now we see little blips happening now. Like for instance, with the census, that kind of shows, okay, well, now there's this big group. So we better start looking at this big group, because what does the census do? It counts things for resources and allocations for certain things. So you have this huge group. Now, how are you going to handle us? You're going to be forced to handle us now as the government. So that's the first thing. The second thing is what I saw today, actually, on someone's Instagram story is, somebody is pushing for multiracial, like books and stories and studies, like in a grammar school or something like that. And I think that's the next thing we need to do, is we need to have like more of a multiracial, like curriculum, like an actual maybe major, more than just a class here and there, because think about it this way, LGBTQ plus, 30 years ago, there wasn't any classes on it. Now there's total programs. The same thing can happen with mixed race studies, and we do have a few probably floating around in the country. I don't know where, but it needs to be more integrated in more school curriculums to where people can actually know the history and recognize, our group has our own issues and struggles, and we want you to see that and maybe to treat us a little different or look at us a little bit different. And in terms of how things are now, I think everything it's going to be a slow change, but I do see the changes coming, and it's going to be long and hard, because guess what? We've been dealing with craziness for 400 years in this country with colonization and white supremacy and all that other stuff. So as long as we keep this up, because we see these positive, little points of light, we just have to, the thing is, you have to be committed, and you have to persist, and you have to be resilient, because we're going to be thrown curveballs everywhere. You know what I mean? You'll have people, detracting us and say, well, like even in Twitter, oh, if you're biracial, you're not Black. And then on the other side, somebody says, well, if you're Black and you're biracial, you're Black. Then you get all this other. So we need to have something to kind of dispel all these different myths and everything else. And the first place is this, podcast and YouTube and an online community. And so that's a big, great start. And it's only going to get bigger. And all the books that are coming out, all the memoirs, I've read like a few memoirs already, Raised as a Lie, Swirl Girl. That stuff's out there. And I think the more we promote stuff like that, the more people will be aware as well, because I think we're small but mighty, kind of like my podcast. We're small but mighty, but we will grow in numbers. And that's the way I see it. And it's only up. You got to think positive. You got to be like, keep fighting. What we're doing is right. It's a good thing. just keep going, no matter what gets thrown at you, whatever negativity, whether the devil's in the work, because the devil's always working, you just keep going because you're doing something good, and the devil hates it when we do stuff good. Sorry, I done got a little church on people. That's just my background, you guys. I'm Catholic and Christian, so if whatever deities you believe or whatever, I apologize. That's just my background saying stuff. Well, I want to, respect other people's, opinions and backgrounds and stuff, but that's how I see it. That's how I see it.
Yes. No, I completely agree. I remember, never in school curriculum was there a mixed race protagonist or a mixed race, just anything about the mixed experience. And only last year I read one book that featured a multiracial family and discussed the kids' multiracial experience. And reading that, I was like, wow, this is something that I relate to. This is something that I need more of, and I think everybody needs more of, regardless of whether you're mixed or not. If you're mixed, then you see yourself in it, and if you're not mixed, then you learn about what the mixed experience is truly like. Because when you're hearing it just from a friend or from somebody or somebody you don't know, at some point, just it might not click anymore. But reading it and seeing like, oh wow, it can have so many different forms is something that is really valuable, and I think that anybody can benefit from that. That is part of the why that inspired me to, like, with this platform, as a multiracial South Asian, I wanted to find other ones because, like, historically, and when you say mixed race to somebody in America, it usually means black and white.
Yeah.
And so I think other mixes kind of go under the radar. And even though there's very strong multiracial Asian population, within that, because the South Asian community is so small in the US, there's even a smaller multiracial South Asian community. And so that, like, I've been working for the past few months on getting like just testimonials and hearing the experiences of multiracial South Asian people, or people who are in interracial relationships raising multiracial South Asian individuals. And hopefully that becomes that's kind of finalizing right now. So hopefully it becomes some kind of like book collection thing late summer or this fall. So we'll see. But that's exactly kind of what I think we need, is just more everything about mixed race, and that comes in different forms so that anybody can appreciate them and in like whatever their preferred type of media is. So yeah.
What's the name of the book that you read?
The book, well, I've read a few books about,
but that one, the first book that you just said about the mixed race family, what's the name of it?
Yeah, it's called Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng, she's really famous. She wrote Little Fires Everywhere. She is a phenomenal author. And that book was it was like 1970s small town Ohio. And it was about a white woman and a Chinese man got married and had 3 children who were all mixed race. And so then we learned about, it wasn't like focused on their mixed identity, but that was very much a large part of it, because the kids would be like, well, I don't feel like I fit in anywhere. They were made fun of. They were like they were targets of racist rhetoric. And then there is just a lot of like the daughter who had long black hair but had blue eyes like the mom, and like the other kids feeling like the mom liked her more because she had more like Eurocentric features. And so just a lot of things like that. But it was a really great book, and I would recommend it. I mean, there's so many books that are about the mixed experience, but I would really recommend it as like a great work of fiction that it's not even like I want to read a whole book about like just mixed race person talking just about their mixed race experience. Like I would love to, but also it's nice to see that, we can be multifaceted. Like we're not just talking about our race or our background, kind of as you said with your podcast, like you ask them not only about their heritage, but also like what they do, and like kind of personify them. We're more than just like our background. And so
that's right.
The book was not focused on that at all, but it had so many elements like weaved into it that were about their background and like dealing with that, but also dealing with just like various other societal pressures. And so it was a really, really great read.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I want to read all sorts of different backgrounds and everything, you know. I think the thing is with us is because we're such a larger group, the Black, white, mixed group, you'll tend to see more of that representation like in media or in books and all that. But you guys are rising too. So y'all speak up, y'all start saying stuff, whatever background anyone is, speak up, say something, because you're beautiful and people need to hear your story. Because here's the thing. You might be saying something to somebody that they just needed to hear right at that time based on your experiences. And with me, and maybe with somebody else. And that's the thing. Keep talking, keep letting people know what's going on. Say it loud, say it proud, because somebody out there is going to need to hear what we're saying right now. They may need this stuff. This could be something for someone, the difference between hanging in there and committing suicide, for God's sakes, you know what I mean? Or falling into depression or whatever. So this is absolutely necessary. No matter what background you are, speak up and talk about it. We are all here for each other. That's the one thing I like about the mixed race community. I don't care what mix you are, we're all mixed in some way. And we all, like you said earlier, have that commonality. We have this thread that kind of unites us. So I say everyone, no matter what you are, do a podcast, write a book, write a poem, do some artwork, let people see you shine. Speak up and speak out, because we're here for you and we're here to support you, no matter what mixed race background you are. At least I know I am. Absolutely.
Yes, that is exactly what we need. And so it's just so heartwarming that there are people like you who are just so interested in helping other mixed people really understand and their experience and feel like they actually belong in their identity. Because first it starts with feeling like you don't belong, feeling like you don't have a place, and then it can just spiral downward from there.
Absolutely.
And speaking of support for multiracial individuals, what advice would you give to your teenage self about your own mixed race identity and or a mixed race teenager now and who's struggling with appreciating their mixedness? What would you say?
Well, okay, first to myself, I would tell myself, it's okay, you will learn. You'll have to go through some rough stuff, but just keep believing in yourself, keep up that iron will. You will figure things out, you will learn. Just be patient. The world may seem like crap now, or you may feel weird or out of place. It's okay, you will figure things out. Just keep going, keep learning, figuring things out. Keep an open heart and an open mind. And the people who don't see you in your best light and what a gift you are, F them. I don't want to cuss on your stuff, okay? and just learn to love yourself and be proud of who you are, and it will get better. Now, for kids nowadays, my darlings, we are here for you. I can be your mama if you want, your multiracial mama online. If you need to reach out, there are people like me who are willing to put you on, to talk to you, to have you tell us your story. Know that you have support. There's resources out there. There's books, there's movies, there's documentaries. I mean, there's everything. Start absorbing yourself into that, to know that you're not alone. There is things out there that you could reach out for, whether it's a group, whether it's a video, whatever. Learn, just sink yourself into that, and just realize by looking at all these images and all these media and hearing all these stories that you're not alone. And take whatever you get from those and keep it in your heart to help you move forward, whether it's a song, lyric, a phrase, whatever. You just keep that and you keep moving with that and keep learning, keep searching for more and more, because as it says right behind me, never stop learning, never stop learning, because it's empowering. And just know that there's people here for you, and if you need support, I'm here for you, and you're not alone. And what you're going through, we've been through, we're still here. We're a testament that you can get through what you're getting through. You can do this.
And the last question is, how would you describe your multiracial identity or the mixed community in 5 words or less? It could be a sentence. There's not really a restriction, but just in a concise way.
Beautifully and wonderfully made. That's how I feel. Beautifully and wonderfully made. That's it. Focus on that. You are beautiful, you are wonderful, and you're made. You're here on this earth for something. You're here to make an impact, and you can, whether it's a small ripple or big volcanic explosion, I always believe in the butterfly effect. You know what I mean? Just
Yes.
one little thing you could do can change the world. And
Yeah.
you hang on to that because you are beautifully and wonderfully made.
Mhm.
That's how I
Thank
feel,
you.
honey.
Mhm. No, that's totally, that I totally agree with that. I mean, the mixed community is really beautiful, and we have so many like kind of hidden superpowers, I feel, than
That's right.
other people. And we're coming together, and we're going to really shape shape the future of the world.
Yep.
So I'm very excited to see that and to be a part of it.
That's right, honey. Onwards and upwards to
Mm.
infinity and beyond, as Buzz Lightyear would say. Yes, yes, absolutely. Keep it up, honey. Keep it up. I love you. I love the whole community. Everyone, y'all created content creators, whatever, keep it up. I tell everybody, just keep it up. Keep it up. I can be everyone's biggest cheerleader. I love cheering on for people. Do it.
You're
Yes,
good at
yes.
it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, because I see potential in people and I know we all have potential. If somebody can tap into that and keep it growing within somebody, they can,
Yeah.
all right, this person sees something in me. I probably do have something in me. Let me see what that is. Or this person may point out that potential in me. And
Mhm.
that's a lot of times that can make a world of difference. Just knowing somebody believes in you and supports you and sees that potential, you can move mountains. Just as long as
Mhm.
you got at least that one person who
Mhm.
believes in you and sees that potential. And that's
Mhm.
how I look at everything. I look at you, I look at Donis, I look at everybody who's doing this, Dr. Jen. I mean, everyone. We're working in that potential. We're
Mhm.
flourishing. We're going to go even further. You know, like I had a conversation with my, again, my producer and my marketing person. I said, when we reach the top, not if, when, you still keep going. Don't get comfortable. Don't say, oh, I finally reached it and do nothing. I said, look at celebrities, look at athletes. They still go play ball. The celebrities still go do movies. The rock and rollers, the musicians still playing their music.
Yeah.
Wherever you at, if you get to a point where you're saying, well, this is good, don't stop. You
Mhm.
still got more to do. You still need to do more. That's why you're in this position. That's why you were placed in this position. It's a lifelong commitment. It has to
Mhm.
be. That's success.
100%.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this interview. It's always so nice to hear from you. And this
Thank
was
you.
not a chore. This was 100% a gift. So thank you so much. And I'm so grateful for everything you do for the mixed community.
Thank you, honey. Thank you so much.